Hello, everybody. Hi, welcome. It would appear that my original plans have been altered as I can no longer do the work that I was doing. So, I guess I'll upload. We'll just see what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing today. So, I could use the affirmators. I'm not experimenting. I'm forced to use a different angle today because my little ring light thing was broken and I switched some parts out, calling myself fixing it, but the phone clip thing, so the default ring stand one was small enough for me to put my little webcam on. This other one is much too wide for that to happen. So this is the angle we got today. And I literally just the other day had a small clip that my mom gave me, and I can't remember where I put it. I didn't think I threw it away, but I also didn't think I would need it or use it. And now here I am needing it. So maybe that's a lesson to not be so hasty to throw some things away, or to, if something tells you like, hey, like I don't need this, but I feel like I might soon, maybe it's worth hanging on to. So we'll just see what comes out today. Like I said, I don't really have a plan. And I'm assuming that, I'm hoping that my time could be utilized at least productively in this sphere by doing something, since I can't really do much else. And I finally got my watch to sync up yesterday. I had to watch it the entire time. Because for some reason, like, first I did the update and it made me unpair the watch before I could update it. Then it stopped in the middle of an update. Then I guess it finished updating and it was syncing, but it just randomly, it's like the watch finished whatever before my phone recognized it as synced. And then so I had to like literally watch it the entire time. And then it worked. Cause like I went through the whole setup process and I'm like, wait, why is this not synced? And a watch is about time, right? Synchronizing time to another device. But the time on the watch is kept by the other device, I believe. The watch has the capability to keep its own time, but when left off for extended periods of time, it picks up where it left off instead of picking up at the current time. Because the watch that I have isn't, I think they made newer ones since then that have like, Wi-Fi capabilities or whatever, so it can keep its own time, but mine is connected to my phone. And I was like, time ain't synchronizing. I can't move forward with this. I am not, like, I know I literally just said that I work best under pressure, but I'm not trying to, like, this is pressure enough for me to be working in. If I have to do it all in a shorter amount of time, then I will. But, I'd prefer to not have to. But everything will work out. So I need not focus on it too much. I feel like I'm back in this little limbo space where I need to get a little bit clearer. There comes the heat again. I need to get a little bit clearer on, I guess, what it is that I'm moving forward with and how I'm moving forward, because whenever I get too far out of alignment with it, whatever it is, things start to slow down. And there are some other things, like I said, that I'm waiting on to come through. And with the way everything is right now, a lot of people have been backed up in a lot of stuff. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised if I have to wait. And I actually part of me likes that it's not in my hands. Right, I've done everything that I need to do for the most part. But another part of me is like, okay, well, like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? So let's just get something general for today, or whatever wants to come out. I will grab the affirmators. Bottom of the deck is the Three of Swords. Oof. I was like, wait, where's my camera? Three of Swords. Yeah, see, this is going to be real weird today. I might just have to trust me. And I'm trying not to show, like, too much of my room, because it ain't the neatest. I got more stuff than I got room. Yep, that's the Death card. I was like, is that the Death card? It is. Transforming that heartbreak into heartmake. Alright, this one is good. I'm gonna give it a half cut. Now it's good. And I guess we'll do that this side, that side thing that I do sometimes. So we'll shuffle up the other one, and then we'll just see what's said. Things seem a little quiet. Over here, at least. And I don't know if this is like quiet before the storm quiet, if things are a little calmer today quiet, or what. But things are feeling quiet. Not necessarily calm, just quiet. I just heard a seagull. Is that a seagull? Not a seagull. Some bird. I don't know. I don't know what that bird is. I don't know what any of the birds are. And I'm not going to attempt to make the noise. Ooh, the Fool and the Page of Cups. Okay. Let's get this one shuffled up. We'll do that this side. Hey, look, there's the Death card with the Fool. So since we saw Death at the bottom, this will be the last one. Give this a few of these. It's quiet, but I can feel the heat still like building up. And this heat feels a little different. This is like a sweatier heat. I don't know. It's weird. All right. So if y'all don't know how to do this, I'll pull. It's like a war. You know, the old game back in the day, the card game. You go I declare war, and then you flip the card. Whichever card is the highest takes it, and whoever has the most cards at the end of the game is the winner. That's kind of sort of what this is inspired by. The card of war, if it's a pip card, it's the highest number. Aces and pages hold the same value. Knights take it, and then kings and queens also hold the same value. All of the majors hold the same value as well. So let's start over here. And then we have little clarifiers, or 3 little clarifiers. On this side, we have the 6 of Wands, which is a card of recognition. 6 is in the middle, so I'm going to say that I don't know which side it's going to win. I think I just bumped the camera. I don't like this angle. But I'm also not going to fuss with it, because I'm not going to get it how I like it or want it, so it is what it is. Why did I throw it away? Why? It was like cracked and everything, but at least I could set my little webcam on it so I can get a different angle. It is what it is. It's done. Over here we have the Death card. So wow, yeah, this side is gonna take it. This side over here is about transformation. This side over here is about almost the need for recognition and validation from other people. 6 of Wands is a Leo energy, but I'm getting that extroverted, like I feed off of the energy of other people, and not in a sucky type of way, just like that extroverted way, right? In social situations, when the crowd is hype, I get hype. But it's almost like it's reaching that point where it's dependent on it. And on this side is Scorpio, which is all about transformation. Could also be internal validation. So they share that, but if I think on the energy of Scorpio, I feel like Scorpio is the only thing that can really validate Scorpio. Fully. And at least with Leo, like Leo validates Leo. And Leo doesn't the energy of Leo just in and of itself doesn't need other people to validate it. It just thrives in social situations. It's the sun, right? What's the sun without a solar system? Then it's just a star in the sky somewhere. But scorpionic energy supports a different kind of life. The life that Scorpio supports thrives without light. The life that Leo supports thrives in the light. Scorpio has adapted to live without light. How does anything survive down there? Because if it ain't no light, it ain't like there's like seaweed. What? What do fish eat? Because I know bigger fish eat smaller fish, and like whales and like animals eat krill. But what does the krill eat? What do the shrimps eat? What do the smaller fish eat? What is sustaining the Scorpio energy? It ain't for me to know. Scorpio is mysterious. New moon in Scorpio is coming up, and then we'll have the full moon in Taurus at the end of the month. No, new moon in Libra is coming up because we have the full moons before the new moons now. So the new moon in Scorpio will actually be next month. I don't know when, probably somewhere around the 14th or the 13th, between the 12th and the 14th, probably. Mercury is about to retrograde in Scorpio. And so it's like as Mercury retrograde Scorpio, it's gonna be bringing some things back up to the surface because it's actually gonna go back into Libra. So it's in those deep Scorpio waters, and it's gonna not only is it gonna come back to the surface, it's actually gonna breach the surface. And the sun will be in Libra. No, the sun will be in Libra when it starts. It'll be in Scorpio by the time it finishes. I feel like there's a question here of like what happens to places that are exposed to light for the first time. What happens to the animals? What happens to the ecosystem when it's exposed to the light? Now, a lot of them have evolved without eyes, or at least some of them have evolved without eyes because there's no light, there's no need to have eyes. And so it's almost the question of would they even notice that the sun is there? And maybe not necessarily the sun, because the sun also comes with warmth. Would they notice that the light is there without the ability to perceive it? And I think that's the question here. Like, would we as people, and it's kind of sort of that Aksunade energy, that dawn, like, would we as people be able to realize and notice when the light is there, when we've been more or less forced to evolve to the point where we can't recognize light? I don't know. That's an interesting question. I didn't necessarily expect it to get this deep. We have the Three of Cups, the Hierophant, and the Ace of Swords. Ooh, this Ace of Swords been popping out in this deck lately. Ace of Swords came out earlier today too. Three of Cups, the Hierophant, the Ace of Swords, supporting this Six of Wands. This feels like, yeah, this. I feel like this is recognition from somebody, or at least it's like there's this victory and triumph here because we're wanting the truth. For whatever reason, we're wanting the truth. And with the Ace of Swords coming out after the Hierophant, this feels very, Paris, maybe 1300s, when they invented the guillotine or the guillotine to be a more humane way of effectively ending a life. It's like instead of coming for the royals or whatever, they're coming for corrupt, false, hierophant energies. And it's like back in the day, we had that Three of Cups when everything was like, everything was hunky dory, everything was good. And then after a certain point, we're looking at hierophant energy, and hierophant energy doesn't necessarily have to be. Hierophant energy is anything structured, anything organized, and anything that governs over people, right? And there are a lot of things that govern people. There are industries like the beauty industry governs some people because people buy into its standards of beauty. People compare themselves to the models, the magazines, the Instagram models and influencers and stuff like that. And it's almost never been easier. That's a very like modern sort of interpretation because it's not like I was alive back in the day, but it almost feels like it's never been easier to become an influencer. And as we've seen, there are no real qualifications to become an influencer. It doesn't require a person of a certain ethical or moral standing. I don't want to say anybody can do it, but any type of person has the ability to become an influencer, right? I think there is some skill involved there. And so I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying anybody can do it, but again, there's no like regulations and stipulations on who becomes an influencer. And it's not that there needs to be, but it's almost also at the same time, we've never been in a position where we're more easily influenced by other people either, and other systems and other standards. And again, it's easy to say that from my now perspective because there have always been, and that's all coming to the light now, um, people who were influential in the past who had their fair share of scandals and whatever. Because again, even becoming a politician, an actor, a pastor, anything, any person in a certain position, there's no real there's no qualifications, right? You can be anybody and do that as long as you're in that arena. There are no real gateways to entering those arenas, and so you get all kinds of people who become influential, and then you get all kinds of people who follow those influences. But with this Ace of Swords, it's almost like we're holding these things to a higher standard. And this person is walking on air. But now it's like these glow sticks have become torches and pitchforks. And they're trying to ride this wave of almost being above it to a certain degree, not really fully accepting the responsibility of it and for what they do. But at the same time, it's people who make influencers influencers. Influencers don't make themselves. And I feel like there's this mirror here that needs to be there where it's like, at what point do we hold the people accountable for making this influential? At what point do we hold ourselves accountable? And there are certain things that we just don't know. And I feel like it's not necessarily to blame anybody, but it is to make that decision once you get that clarity. Is this something that I'm going to continue to support or no? And then over here is the space of transformation. Now, Death is heading for the Six of Wands. And in some ways, like the Six of Wands is like got on his little Hermes boots. And Mercury is about to retrograde, so there's the Scorpio and Mercury here because of the boots. The winged boots, one of the symbols of Hermes, um, or Mercury in Roman. Hey, Miss Renell. In Latin, in Rome, Mercury. In Greece, Hermes. What's behind this? This would be interesting. I don't know. The Six of Wands, the Seven of Swords, and is this the Queen of Cups? The Queen of Cups. Queen of Cups, Seven of Swords, Six of Wands. Six of Wands over here, Six of Wands over here. But this Six of Wands is facing away from death. This Seven of Swords is facing away from death. This Queen of Cups is also, I believe, facing away from death. How are you doing today, Miss Renell? Did I ask you that? If not, I'm sorry. Everything over here is facing away from death. Which to me means that it's already been transformed. And so maybe we're stepping down over here. Because here we have the Six of Wands in the past. I've been on for 20 minutes, Miss Vernell. Here we have the Six of Wands and the Seven of Swords. The Six of Wands and the Seven of Swords, it's sort of that victory at any cost. It's sort of that no press is bad press, no attention is bad attention. That is in the process of being transformed. And it's leaving us at this Queen of Cups energy. It's almost like you're good, glad to hear it. I am as well. What this reminds me of, it's like it's a an older influencer versus a newer influencer. Kind of sort of in my own experience of the world, Tyler Oakley versus like newer influencers, when Tyler Oakley is like, as an influencer, as a person who holds sway over people, it's kind of sort of your responsibility to be more responsible and to not be so irresponsible when you are kind of sort of what people look at and look towards. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I guess they're behind. But he was also like him and I think Kingsley, because Kingsley came back for a second. He might still be back. They were like, we don't know what it means to be influencers now because when we came up, things were different. And now it's like, the influencers are the people in houses, the models, the ones who do like all of these like grander get together types of sorts of things. And so their arena looks different than the arena of the past. But we're in this time where we're being told with the Hierophant energy, for good or bad, that we shouldn't be gathering in such large numbers and we shouldn't be being so reckless at the very least. But that's kind of sort of how they became who they are. That's what they're known for. And I guess my question is there any substance in that? And then the follow up question is, does substance even matter nowadays? I don't know what this is. Today has been a little deeper than I than I thought it would be. But also, I had a dream last night, and in the dream last night, I got a horoscope. Somebody read me my horoscope, and it said something about a frozen merry-go-round. In the frozen merry-go-round, it isn't actually frozen. It's just the merry-go-round that never stops. We keep going in the same direction. None of the horses are real in the merry-go-round. They're all fake. And even if they were real, they're all tied to poles, so they're not going to go anywhere. And it's this cycle. And not only are we repeating these same loops, hoping for something different, we're also, it's like we think we're doing something new and innovative, but we're just following the same cycle. Because the first part was about, let me read it again. I tweeted it for some reason instead of putting it in my journal app. Because I was like barely up and I was trying to get back to sleep. I woke up at like 4 o'clock this morning and then I went back to sleep at like 6. And then I woke up a few times between 6 and when I actually woke up. And when I actually woke up, wake me up before you go. So, repeating the same thing over and over with an expectation of a different result And something that it was I wish to work out that isn't. But when I was listening to this horoscope, it was partly like this is stuff that I already know, partly this is stuff that I'm already working to take care of. Stepping outside of our comfort zone to do something that is new. Stepping outside of what is sort of predefined by this Hierophant and claiming something new with that Ace of Swords. This side is going to take it. So maybe it's the advice that when we're so wrapped up in the rowdiness of everything that's happening and going on, it's easy to lose track of what actually matters. But again, with the Three of Cups and the Hierophant, it's like this energy thrives on us just being. It thrives on instant gratification. And when it's about instant gratification, there doesn't need to be any substance, really. It's not supposed to be impactful. It's not supposed to mean anything. It's just to entertain. And not everything has to be impactful and meaningful. Right? But something should be. I don't know. It's just like it preys and thrives on us being so quick to throw ourselves away and to pursue something else, a different lifestyle, a different this, a different that, a different whatever. Whatever it is, something that we don't have, something that we're made to want because of the image that we see of it online, I guess. I don't know. That one was weird. We're actually going to leave these a mystery, and then we'll flip them both at the same time. I think the affirmators are going to take it this time, so that means that the pride is probably going to take it. Oh, ooh, the King of Cups and the title card. Okay. Well, the title card I'll consider as a major, so the pride is going to take it. And like I said, that's just how my intuition works sometimes. I think, oh, I'm supposed to go right, and the answer is going left. It's either dead wrong or right on, and I don't understand it. I'm like, oh, it's not this thing. It is. I'm like, what? But I was so sure that it wasn't. Like, I don't know what it is, but I for gosh darn sure know that it's not that exact thing that it actually is. And that's something I gotta learn myself. Like I said, I think this side is gonna win, so this side is probably gonna get it. Now, with the title card, that could be literally anything. The King of Cups is here, and we just saw a transformation that led to the birth of the Queen of Cups. Right? And it's this notion of what is actually counterintuitive. Because a lot of times when we say that something is counterintuitive, we're not talking about the actual intuition. We're just talking about that Hierophant program. This is counterintuitive. It's not counterintuitive. It just runs against the program that, we're led to believe. There's a difference. So we have the counterintuitive against the intuitive. And maybe that's another thing that Hierophant into the Ace of Swords is. That's that, like, oh, this is counterintuitive, but it's not actually. It just falls outside of the program. It falls outside of the standard. It falls outside of the norm. It's not what you think it would be because you've been led to think a certain way. That's it. We'll start over here first. So we got, oh snap, the Four of Wands. Oh, if y'all can see, this is such an awkward angle. Four of Wands, the Ten of Pentacles, and the King of Swords. There's the Kingy. If I'm not seeing the King of Swords, I'm seeing the Queen of Swords. This is interesting. The King of Swords and the King of Cups. Usually we see the Queen of Swords and the Queen of Cups, and that's that thinking woman. So that's why counterintuitive popped into my mind. Because instead of fire and earth is like, what we've been convinced works. We then see it, like my friend said yesterday, pragmatic. what we've been convinced works is what we sort of put the fuel into. That's the fire that we fuel. It's the fire that has proven itself to work. But now we have this King of Cups, King of Swords, counterintuitive, counter what the masculine energy would usually typically believe. We get Death, which literally just came out. We keep getting Death in the affirmators after we see it in the Pride Tarot. The Queen, no, the Four of Pentacles, and the Hanged Man. What? Oh my gosh. No. No. I told y'all everything is so precarious right now. It's all, yep, y'all can see all of that. Oh goodness. Oh wait, hold up. There we go. There we go. It was something like this. More or less. Probably less, but oh goodness. The title card is a card of mystery. The Four of Wands, the Ten of Pentacles, and the King of Swords. That's a card of celebration, a card of abundance, and a card of projecting one's truth onto the world. That leaves us in this mystery position. On the other side, we have a card of transformation, a card of hoarding or protecting, and a card of suspension that culminates in the way we, like an emotional projection of onto the world. This King of Cups is interesting because I'm assuming that this big old whale is not going to be, well, the initial assumption would be that whatever is in this cup is not going to be enough to satiate the thirst of this big old whale with the trident. So Neptunian energy, Neptune and Cancer, Scorpio, goodness. And then here's Scorpio again. I say Neptune because of the trident, Neptune being Pisces. And yeah, that's the whale. It's a Piscean energy to me because it comes to the surface and it dives deep. It's both, right? And so I was gonna say that that's not enough water to satiate this king's thirst, but the king literally lives in water. So I don't think the king of cups, this king of cups, is necessarily thirsty. Just like I don't think this king of swords is necessarily starved for thought or stimulation. They're both in their own element. And as rulers of their element, they can present to you, there's almost this, it's a feeling of like inside knowledge, but it's just the perspective from someone who has a more complete understanding of how that element works, because again, they rule over it. And it's kind of sort of their job to know everything that happens in that element. A responsibility that they share with the queens, but as the kings, it's like they are more so the figureheads. It's like the queen is the representative of the kingdom to the citizens of that kingdom. The king is the representative of that kingdom to everyone outside of the kingdom. The world knows the king, the people know their queen. I don't know why these feel so just like heavy today, or just like out there. I kind of want to quit. Maybe I'll do one more. It just feels like they're like really, really big themes almost. And I mean, Pluto just went direct, and a lot of things are in the process of change as the karmic planets have gone direct, and as Mars is still retrograde and Neptune is retrograde, there's a lot of individual efforts right now that have a collective force. And I almost don't know where to start with this. And it's kind of sort of the title card throwing me off. The title card is going to take it, and we don't know why. We don't have to know why. It's not our job to know why. So we can simplify that real easy. All we know is that we're supposed to be coming into a space of owning our truth. Not only our own truth, it's a truth that's a little bit bigger than us. A little bit. Owning our truth and speaking in, planning for, strategizing, setting ourselves up on a path of celebration and abundance. This celebration almost feels more like a Six of Wands on this side, though. And we've already seen the Six of Wands on both sides, so maybe that's why it's coming out as the Four. Because it does feel like there's a challenge before we hit this Four of Wands. But the Two of Wands and the Three of Wands before the Four is also a space of not necessarily challenge, but the Two is the beginning, the Three is the furthering, and the Four is the completion of that phase of the journey. So there is something worth celebrating. There is this, at least the frequency of abundance, but with the King of Swords, we have to recognize it and align with it. And wherever that leads us, well, that's where it leads us. On this side, though, with we have two majors, Death and the Hangman, with the Four of Pentacles sitting in between it. This feels like something that we don't like we know we need to let go of, but we're not yet willing to let go of it. And it almost feels like, in some ways, it almost feels like something that we don't even want, or something that we're coming to the understanding that we don't really want it anymore, but it almost at the same time feels like something that we've identified ourselves with the wanting of it. It's like, I've always wanted this thing. Like, I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to be this. I've always wanted to be with this person because the vision of the future I saw in the past, like, it was me and this person. I was raised to be this. I was raised to like that. But it does feel like we're starting, kind of sort of starting to hit a spot where we're realizing that we don't even really fully want what we thought we wanted. And without letting it go, it's like this thing will continue to ensnare and entrap us with that hangman energy. The legs of the frog are tied up. This frog's means of mobility tied up. Frogs can't walk on their legs or on their front legs, right? They hop. They hop. Like, they're known for hopping. And it's like with one foot tied up, you can't push off with the force that you need to, right? It's like if there was a bird, like if you tie a bird up by the foot, that's fine. It can still fly. Now, it's not going to fly far because its leg is tied up, but its primary means of mobility is not lost. This is like one foot in, one foot out. And with the Four of Pentacles, it's like we know that we need to change and transform, but it's almost like we're waiting to see how things shake out before we do it. But with this King of Cups energy, this King of Cups is also a minor high priestess, like the Queen of Cups. But with this King, it's like we need to outwardly express ourselves as, show ourselves as moving forward. And again, the King and the Queen of Cups don't necessarily know everything. The High Priestess knows a lot more than they do. The High Priestess knows exactly why they're in the situation that they're in, knows exactly what they're supposed to be learning, but they don't know. They might know that, like, I'm supposed to do this, and I have a feeling like I'm supposed to go here, but I don't know why. And with the king being the face of the kingdom to everyone outside the kingdom, on the side of the Six of Wands, that is like, it's not necessarily, it's just an extroverted energy. It thrives in a situation where it can be a light to others. But now it's like we're asking to change the image of whatever that Leo energy held in a way. And this is Scorpio energy. We had Scorpio on the other side coming to transform that Leo energy. And then here's death again. Death is the furthest thing from the mind of this King of Cups. And it's like the King of Cups wants to transform but isn't yet ready to let something go. Holding on to a hope or a wish that maybe something will come to be. And my thing is, like, it's okay to hang on to hope. It's okay to hang on to a wish, but at the cost. So I'm just gonna keep moving along, and whatever is lost, because ultimately, at the end of the day, we all have our own journeys, and we're all being led, and we all know exactly what we need to do. It's just like sometimes we'll be more willing to do certain things over other things. So, it is what it is. But this side is gonna take it. The mystery is gonna take it. The unknown is gonna take it. What is counterintuitive is gonna win. And like that merry-go-round, that frozen merry-go-round, it's not actually immobilized. It's just stuck on a loop. Excuse me. And we have the magic, especially like if you find yourself on the unicorn in that merry-go-round. If you find yourself on the unicorn, it's like you have the magic to make that unicorn real. The magic. You have the ability to make that unicorn real. And it's almost like, because the kings are about projection, right? So it's almost like you're projecting this watery, airy gate in front of you. And as the merry-go-round is coming back around, it's your job to hold that portal stable. Because you're on the merry-go-round of life. Life is going to take you in whatever direction it's going to take you in. But if you can hold that portal stable as that merry-go-round comes back around, the unicorn or horse, it doesn't have to be a unicorn, but it came to me as a unicorn, so we're going to go with the unicorn, because for those who believe in miracles, miraculous things happen, right? Counterintuitive, it breaks the program. But the intuition knows that it's possible. It operates outside of the program. And so it's like, as you hold that portal steady and just ride the force of life, you'll pass through it. And as you pass through that portal, it's like it animates the unicorn, it dissolves the pole, and it brings you into this space where you can navigate in any direction that you want to. You escape this merry-go-round not by getting off of it or trying to break it. You escape it by holding this space stable, that as you come around, you will pass through. And again, it reminds me of that moon card, right? Yesterday when I said what's in the dark will come to the light, that's not always negative. There are positive things. There are these bridges that we can create, these portals that we can establish in the dark. And as long as we hold them, when the wheel turns, because the wheel will turn, we go through those portals. But the thing is, because at the end yesterday, the tower came out with the moon. Those two trees in the moon card created the portal. But when the tower strikes one of those, it destabilizes. So it's like almost, it's a portal that we can't really take anyone else through. And that's why with this death card down here, it was like You can hold on to faith and you can hold on to hope for something, but it should not come at the detriment of your growth, healing, and evolution. You'll find it on the other side of the portal if it's meant to be there. Because the tower is going to come for that second tree. And once that second tree goes down, there's nothing to anchor the portal on the other side. We're anchoring in energy right now before we can experience it in our environment. And that's why I said a while ago, if you're overly dependent on your environment to reflect to you and to show you that you're doing the right thing, that you're doing a good job, sweetie, keep going. I don't want to say you're doing it wrong, but it's like things on the mental and the spiritual are like that's what comes in on the physical. So you have to hold it mentally and spiritually. You have to hold the faith and the hope and the belief and the knowing in order to get it to happen for you physically. And you can't, like, when you use your physical as a judge for if you're doing it right, it's like you're going to give up before it even has the opportunity to transit into your life. It's like you order something and then you move, or it's like you know that you're going to move somewhere. So you order a bunch of furniture and everything else to arrive at that new place when you arrive at the new place. But you decide not to move, and you don't. It's like you decide not to move, and since you're not moving, you don't need that furniture anymore. So you forget about all these orders that you placed. Now, in some ways and in some worlds, the furniture still arrives at that place for you. And it's like you never cancel the order. Because right, you're just like, oh, I'm not going to move anymore. I'm not going to cancel the order. I'm not going to worry about anything. Maybe you just throw your hands up in frustration and you just say, like, F the whole thing. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just not going to move. Now, when that stuff arrives at your place and you're not there to sign for it, it just goes back to the sender. It gets returned to sender because there's no one there to accept it. Now, I feel like there is this like some people will have it delivered to their new place. They will decide not to move and they will expect for all of that to arrive at their old place. But that's not how that works. If you decide not to move to that new place where you have everything coming, you forfeit the place, you forfeit the stuff. You can't fit all this new furniture in this old place, especially if you're not even vacating the old place. If you're not making space for it in your old place, where's it going to go? You got to keep moving. And like if it will find you on the other side. But again, these are things that we have to hold stable in our own lives and things that we have to continue to strive for even before we get that external validation. Because the external validates what's on the inside. And if you can't hold it stable, internally, how in the world is it supposed to manifest on the physical? Where everything is rigid. Everything is what it is. And we can say that, a certain thing has a different perception. It's like, does it exist in one spot? Yeah, but there are infinitely many versions of it because everyone has their own perception of the thing. And that's accurate. But when we're talking about manifesting things, especially things of this nature, things outside of what we have experienced, if we don't hold that steady and firm, it's not going to happen. Right. If it's something that we're manifesting collectively, then it's like, if you slip up or if you stop believing, well, there's enough people still putting into it that it's still going to happen. But when it comes to you and your own personal life, especially if you don't have a good support system, who's putting into this thing when you stop putting into it? No one does. That's that Empress. When I pulled for the Sagittarius, that was that Empress with, I can't remember the other card. I remembered earlier, but I can't now. The Ten of Swords. That's the Empress, the Ten of Swords, and then the Devil and the Ace of Wands are at the bottom of the decks. It's like if you're not nurturing, supporting, putting any life into what it is that you're creating, it's not going to have any life. you can't be in this Empress mode or claim to be this Empress energy when you're not putting anything into your creations. Because if you don't feed, if you don't water a plant, if it's not getting sunlight, if it's not getting the care it needs, it's gonna die. And there was this energy of not giving the things that we're creating the care that they need. Maybe there are some people that you need to protect your ideas from and your dreams from because all they do is rain on parades. Maybe there are some people in your life that you can entrust your idea with, especially if it's someone who can encourage and support you, right? Because then maybe you run into an issue where you need to troubleshoot something and you're like, oh, my little plan is like it's dying and I don't know what's wrong with it. And then they may be like, well, if you're watering it more and it's doing worse, try watering it less. You might have a cactus. And it reminds me of a few years ago, I went to Boilers Out Loud, which is LGBTQIA plus monologues where people come in there talk about their experiences. And there was this one person who inherited this plant from somebody else. She was in grad school, and I guess that person was like, here's this plant that I've been taking care of, and since you're coming in, like, now it's yours. And she was watering the plant, she was giving it sunlight and everything, and she was like, why is this thing dying? She was told that the plant was one thing, and she took the plant to somebody who knows plants, and they're like, this thing is a cactus, and it's dying because you're overwatering it. And she was like, a cactus? Are you sure? Like, the person who gave this to me told me it was something else. They were like, no, this is a cactus. If you stop watering it, it will thrive. And it turns out the plant is a cactus, right? And so that's another thing about that. And I talked about it yesterday as well. That's the thing about the Queen of Pentacles side of that Empress energy, and also the Queen of Cups side of that Empress energy, where it's like we intuitively know what the thing needs to grow. Sometimes it needs more water and sunlight, sometimes it needs less, right? Maybe you need less of this and more of that. But it's ultimately the energy that you give it, right? So we don't necessarily have to know what the thing is exactly. But the energy that we give it, the state of our heart, it'll help us a lot more than we think. It's counterintuitive that when you're growing an organic plant, sometimes it might deviate from whatever because it is a life of its own. And like being a biological engineer and going through biological sciences and stuff like that, there are so many times when life does not follow the model. And that's one of the difficult things about, kind of sort of my discipline in particular, is that life isn't always easy to model, and we're trying to do things that support life. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is actually watch life and see what life does, see what nature does, see how nature feels. Because there's that saying that like nature abhors a vacuum, right? Eventually, over time, life will conquer that area. So see what life is doing. Learn from life. Anyway, we'll do one more. Maybe that's why these are so like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And these are things that you can't really teach people, right? So don't come asking me, oh, what do I do for this? Like, oh, this thing is dying. And I did literally just say, like if there's someone who, like if I'm a person of support for you, then yes, come to me. If I'm just some dude that you watch on the internet, I'm probably not a person of support for you. And I would say, go find someone who knows your energy, knows what you want, and can get you there, right? Because all I can do is say, well, here's what it looks like to me, but ultimately anything that I pick up on should be things that you already know, right? Not like if you're my mom or something. Like if you're one of my best friends and I know you, then it's like it's different because I know you, right? And it's like, well, this is something that you typically do, so maybe you should do a little bit less of this, do a little bit more of that, and you'll get where you want. Bada bing, bada boom, bam. Right? You should care less what this person says or what that person says. You should focus more on yourself. Those are like just general things that actually kind of sort of help a lot of people. But yeah, besides that, it's about us doing what we know we need to do. And honestly, we're in a time of rising to the occasion and rising to the challenge. Because for a lot of what a lot of us want, it requires us to do things that we haven't necessarily done before. Right? It's like if you're literally chained to the carousel, there are a limited number of ways in which you can escape. Unless you're like Houdini and you just slip out the chains and jump off of the thing. Right? Like, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm just going to jump. I'm going to time it to the place where, there's some solid ground, and then I'll jump after I Houdini my way out of these chains. Or, I guess one way isn't necessarily easier than the other, but again, if you hold the space and if you make that portal stable, as the wheel turns, you'll go through it. You don't necessarily have to worry about the momentum of the wheel or this carousel, because if you're here, you're going to be back there in a moment of time. Right? Now, the way it initially came to me is that we're creating this portal in front of us. But if we do that, then it's like it's always in front of us. So sometimes it is easier to create a portal in a stationary point of the wheel and wait till we come back and go through that space. Right? It's like tomorrow is always tomorrow. So sometimes a hard deadline is a little bit better than just like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Because, when tomorrow comes, then the day after tomorrow will be the new tomorrow. And, tomorrow will always be tomorrow, but December 25th, 2020, Christmas. That's a day. That day gets closer and closer every day. Tomorrow is always tomorrow, right? It's however you want to look at it. You manifest your own way of escape, or you can just stay in the little carousel, right? And the thing about, I know that like climate change is a big thing right now, and I don't want to delegitimize it at all, because I'm sure that, even if it is a natural cycle, it's still something that we can contribute to. Just because it's natural doesn't mean that we can't speed it up or slow it down, right? But it's like if you look at the history, there have been these ice ages and then these warming points and then ice ages and warming points and ice ages and warming points, and that's the cycle that the world takes. And I feel like sometimes we're so localized to our own specific situations that we might not even realize that it's like in us trying to break something, all we're doing is following the grander cycle, right? Like, this is the cycle at large. This is the space of your life. You reach the end of your life, you think you're breaking a cycle, but ultimately what you're doing is you're playing a small role in what keeps this thing going, right? How many times have governments fallen? How many governments, how many civilizations have fallen since the beginning of the world? How many religious and spiritual systems have gone away since the beginning of the world, right? If the only thing we're doing is going after the government, if the only thing we're doing is blaming the people in charge, it's a larger cycle. Because then somebody else will come, they'll rise to power, and years later the same thing will happen. When are we actually going to break the cycle? Again, when I was talking about the influencers, when are we going to hold the people who made the influencers influential responsible? If it's something that we all contributed to, we all have a piece of responsibility for this. And yeah, it's easy to be like, oh, the figurehead, the influencer, that's the bad guy. But like I said, influencers don't make themselves. People often don't rise to power themselves. And if someone takes power, still, there are people behind them. There are sentiments behind them. Why is everybody so quick to scapegoat a problem? Isn't that how the Holocaust started? Everybody wanted to blame the Jews and everybody else for why things was the way it was. No one wants to actually sit down and be like, you know what? Something in here don't make sense. Why is it so easy to prey on the fear and hatred of people? Why is it so hard to get to the love and the compassion? Because if we actually work together, there are so many problems that wouldn't even be problems. It reminds me of the Tower of Babel and what man was capable of when everyone had the same tongue and when everyone was working together. They built the Tower of Babel trying to reach the heavens. And it's, again, at that point, it's a story of arrogance, but now it almost becomes this story of like what we're capable of when we all work together for a common goal, for these collective goals, and not just like what I can do. Killing each other over infinitesimally small pieces of this pie that is more than large enough to feed everybody. And the solution to the Tower of Babel wasn't even like, let's take their knowledge, let's take their memory. It was just like, let's introduce difference into the equation. Let's introduce some different languages. Over time, these people will be superior to those people, and those people will be superior to everybody else. And eventually, they'll all be, I don't know, unable to whatever. Like, the knowledge didn't go anywhere. We just introduced the concept of difference and diversity. And maybe with the diversity there, us attaining things that are more divine wouldn't be so bad, because we're not going after it as this like monolithic group, right? Because that's like, diversity is kind of sort of a thing on this planet. It's kind of sort of what this planet is. I don't want to say what it's known for, but it's one of the things that make Earth so beautiful, is that you can go to the desert and then you can go to the ocean. You can go to the rainforest and then you can go to the Arctic or Antarctic Circle, right? And you ain't even got to go that extreme, like within one localized place sometimes, right? Like even in Japan isn't huge, but you go to Hokkaido and you get snow and stuff like that, and you go to other areas and like the weather is completely different. You ain't even got to go all the way around the world to experience that. In certain states, you can experience 3 different seasons in one day, if not 4. Also, who was that heading towards Louisiana right now? Because like this morning, I checked the trending on Twitter just to see, what the world is up to, or at least Twitter. And there was it was like a category 3. No, it was category 2 at the time. And let's see if it's still on here. They were like, oh, it's probably going to turn into category. It was category 2 at the time. They're like, oh, it's probably going to turn like category 3 by the morning. Then I get back on here, it's category 4. I'm like, oh my gosh, you just skipped 3 and went right to 4. It's just time for us to start working together, and it's time for us to get right, because that's what like literally everything is pushing us towards, and we are so capable of so much more. But as long as we're competing against each other, and as long as we're trying to prove something and be better than somebody else, it's like if your sense of self-worth was what you think it is, you wouldn't need to be better than anybody else, because no one else has any definition or any say or any weight on who you are. Why do you got to be better than somebody else in order to feel good about yourself? Why do you have to have more, be smarter than, be more athletic than somebody else in order for you to feel good about yourself? And again, it's not that competition is bad inherently. Healthy competition is a good thing. Competition, it keeps us on our toes. It keeps us sort of, like progressing instead of getting stagnant and complacent. But again, it's like we don't have to make it so extreme. It ain't got to be life or death, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm just weird. You would think it in this world. It's like, okay, this might be the last one, because this is going to places where this wasn't even necessarily, like, I really thought I would just get on here and try to have a little bit of fun with the Pride Tarot. Try to go back to the old days where everything wasn't so hot and fiery all the time, but I guess we're not out of the woods yet. Excuse me. So hey, it is what it is. I think this side is finally gonna take it. Let's see. It's not. It isn't. The Pride Tarot takes it again. At this point, I'm just hoping that this side gets something. We have the King of Wands. So before we had the King of Cups, and I was like, the King of Cups isn't the King of Wands. The King of Wands is the vision, right? Well, here's the King of Wands. A walrus. Even the King of Wands is tied to the water. And then on this side, we got the Wheel of Fortune. So it was the title card before, and now it's the Wheel of Fortune. We've gotten majors from the Pride Tarot every single time. And I'm including the title card as a major. We started with Death, then we went to the title card. Now we're going to the Wheel of Fortune. And we have the King of Wands over here. First, we had the Six of Wands. Then we went into the King of Cups. And now the King of Cups is going to elevate us from a Six of Wands to a King of Wands, right? And that's when we're moving forward with our own internal fire rather than something that is fueled and made bigger by things outside of us, people outside of us, right? Let's see. So we'll start closest. So we're starting with the Four of Swords, which we saw twice yesterday. And also it came out today at some point. I mentioned it earlier today, at the very least. The Four of Swords, especially in this, it's about finding your zen, finding your calm, finding your peace and your meditation in the midst of everything going on. Right? Typically, the Four of Swords comes after the 3 and before the 5. This Four of Swords feels like something that we're finding in the midst of the 3 and the 5. We're finding our center among the chaos and among the heartbreak and among the loss. It reminds me of the thing I saw last night. And I was like, I don't know if this is legit because it was not in English, but the subtitles were in English. And I'm like, I don't know if this man is actually saying this. I don't know if this woman is actually saying this or if this is just some propaganda. But the dude is like, there's so much heartache and there's so much pain out in the world, but, it's cool in the club. We got beautiful ladies, alcohol, and good music. And it's kind of sort of that energy. But again, there's a difference between, because again, I think it was over here. Maybe it was actually on the Legacy channel or on the new channel. I don't remember. But there was this thing about this. No, it was on the new channel because it was the Outlaw. The Outlaw and the Spirit Keeper's Tarot has an Eye of the Moon and the Eye of the Sun. The Eye of the Moon is sort of the truth of the world around us. The Eye of the Sun is the truth of the world that we wish to be in. And when they're on different pages, it creates these like chimeric sort of monsters, these people with like 4 arms, because where we envision their arms to be is different where their arms actually are. It's different from where the arms actually are. But when they line up, and again, that's the energy of like stabilizing that portal that we'll eventually come into. And that's interesting because I know a lot of times somebody who I recently started getting into, I enjoy his content immensely, so much. But he'll talk about a portal as something that we allow to wash over us. But this is one that I'm feeling, because it's like we're on this ride and what we're creating is the escape and we're stabilizing the escape, and we'll come to that point. And collectively, it's like we've been manifesting this series of portals, this series of gateways, because there are multiple things that need to be reawakened and revitalized, right? It's almost like we're manifesting 7 to 11 or 12 of these portals, one for every chakra, right? There's this collective root energy, the collective sacral, the collective solar plexus, the collective heart, the collective throat, the collective third eye, the collective crown. And there are more than just the major 7. But it's almost like, if you can get through the collective crown, then everything else is already there. Because the collective crown is the point where we get on accordance with spirit. And everything in that realm is kind of sort of already aligned, so we don't really necessarily have to worry about anything beyond that. And that's why it seems like every month in 2020 it's been something new, it's been something else. Even October, people are talking about October like October 1st, October 2nd, October 3rd. Like, ooh. You see people talking about like October is that one person in the group who like actually does all the work. I'm like, oh my gosh. But we're coming up on Scorpio season, the season of transformation, and right now we're in Libra season, which is about justice. It's about reflectivity, receptivity, and giving, and the balancing of the scales. And it's like whatever doesn't stick to the scale will be washed off. It reminds me of the ELISA test. It reminds me of doing an assay. And it's like, I think there's the antibody ones and then there's the antigen ones. You can either test for the presence of the antigen or you can test for the presence of the antibody. Either way, you have the lock and then you have the key, right? So you put a bunch of locks at the bottom of a plate and then you put this solution on top. Maybe they're different. You put different ones in different wells. And for ones with the key will get stuck in the lock. I don't necessarily need to do the imagery. The key will get stuck in the lock, right? So then when you wash it out, everything will be gone except for the locks and the key. And then after everything else is washed out, that's when we unlock it and everything comes out. There are certain things that can't exist in the space that we were in. And so right now, the locks and the keys are finding each other, externally and internally. You probably won't be able to connect to a lock or a key outside of you if you're not connected to your own internal lock and key. Right. And then after everything is washed out, it's like this slow unlocking. And it's like as it unlocks, and again, it's about holding these spaces before they come in. But if no one's holding the space, how is it supposed to happen? Like I said, I don't know why it's going there today, but it is. I guess it just is. Pluto is direct now. I'll blame Pluto being direct after Jupiter and Saturn went direct and Mars still being retrograde. So the big planets are like, okay, now it's time for you to do your part. We've done our part. We've given you all of the instructions and all of the materials that you need. Okay, well, maybe they gave us the materials that we need and not the instructions, but they're counting on us to figure it out, right? And with Mars in retrograde, it's like the round peg is not going to fit in the square hole or the triangle hole. So you might try the square hole, you might try the triangle hole, and then you'll do the round hole and it'll work. And then when you pick up the triangle peg, you might try it into the square peg first and then the triangle peg. And if you're not paying attention, you might try the round peg. Hold on, wait. After the round peg goes into the round hole, you pick up the triangle. And then you try the triangle in the square. It doesn't work. If you're not paying attention, you might try the triangle in the round peg. If you are paying attention, you already know that the round peg goes in the round hole, right? So it has the ability to reduce your chances every single time you pick up a different piece because you already know what works here, you already know what works there. And so you don't necessarily have to try to put this in these spaces, right? Now you can, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? It just would expedite the process a little bit. And then you pick up the square peg, and again, if you're paying attention, you put the square peg right in the square hole and you're done. Now you can try square peg in the round hole, square peg in the triangle hole, square peg in the round hole because you can't remember if you tried the square peg in the round hole. Square peg in the round hole again because you twisted it this time. Sorry. And then you put the square peg in the square hole. All of the pieces are where they need to be and the thing unlocks, right? But that's the Four of Swords. It's about finding peace in the midst of it. It's about creating it, honestly. Because it's like everything on the outside is still on the outside. And then, speaking of all of that, here comes Temperance. Temperance being, you did it. Girl, this thing is telling me I stood up. I ain't stand up nowhere. I ain't stand up nowhere. Who was this? Megan, two of my friends just got engaged. Is it engagement season right now or something? Now, one of my friends, I guess three of my friends just got engaged. Well, two friends and an acquaintance got engaged. I was so excited because the good guy won, and whenever the good guy gets the girl, I get excited. I get a little bit of hope for myself that maybe, there'll be a guy who appreciates a good guy out there. I try to be a good guy. I think I'm a decent guy, especially compared to some of the dudes I know. But like I just said, it ain't about comparing myself to other dudes. I try to be decent, right? I try to be compassionate and understanding and patient. Now, patience is something that I have to work at still. I've never really been the patient type of person. I've gotten good at practicing patience, but I'm still pretty impatient. But since I know how to practice patience, and maybe that's what this temperance is about as well. Since we're talking about it, why not? Since since I've gotten really good at practicing patience, again, from an external point of view, it may look like I'm patient, but I still know my own impatience within me. But since I know my impatience, I intentionally practice more patience, right? If I know one of my weaknesses, sometimes I have to be a little bit more intent on making up for that, right? Like if I know that I'm really, really quick to jump towards a certain judgment or jump towards a certain conclusion, then I practice patience. I practice excuse making, basically. I make excuses until I can't make any more. But it just it gives me the time to be more sure about my decision before I make it. And that's why I practice patience. There was a period in time when I was really, really quick to make like final decisions, and then it was like, okay, in order to make decisions that aren't so final, I will, go into the practice of excuse making, so that at least by the time I make the decision, I have enough reasons why I'm making that decision to be comfortable about the decision that I make. But I was still final about those decisions, and it's a lot more recently that I'm coming into the practice of still practicing patience, but not being so final all the time with the decisions that I make. And it's this space of temperance. And temperance came out earlier today. And when temperance is mutual, when there's growth and healing and evolution and change on both sides of the equation, that will, since we're talking about Libra being the scales before Scorpio comes in to flood everything, and everything that is not sticking, Scorpio will wash it off, probably powered up by the fact that Pluto is going to be in its post retrograde shadow. So I don't know why that makes me laugh, but sometimes I laugh because I'm uncomfortable. Um, Sometimes I laugh because I just don't know what else to do. Um, but yeah, with temperance coming in, that's that space of locks finding their keys finding their locks. There are these seals, and going back to the hermit with the energy of us going down to the heart of our energetic stream and unblocking all of these, sort of asking Mr. and Mrs. Beaver or Mr. Walrus to be like, hey, like, I know that y'all have like kind of sort of set up here, but I need this channel to flow again. So like, could y'all like move? And they're like, oh, but where are we gonna go? And it's like, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, I'm not completely heartless. I will help you find somewhere else to go before I just kick you out. Sometimes you just kick them out. Sometimes you got to help them find somewhere to go, because if you don't help them find somewhere to go, you move on, but they just build the dam, or they just dam the river back up again. Um, and then you got to go and clear it again. And you're like, I thought I already did this. It's like, yeah, well, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver weren't happy with the solution that you gave them, so they came back to their original space. And we're ending with the Six of Pentacles. Which is the equal give and take, which is the lock finding the key, which it keeps it in place when everything comes to wash it away. It's very Hercules and the Algaean stables. Now, the Algaean stables was one of the tasks that Hercules completed that he was not given credit for because Hercules didn't clear out the stable. The river cleared out the stable. And I forget who the king was. Oh, snap. Hey, Casey. I just been over here rambling for a hot minute, but it looks like I only missed you by a minute. Hello. How are you doing today, Casey? 2020 on the time. I set my clock to 24 hours at the end of the year last year so I could start catching 2020 on my phone. And I think about that sometimes. I'm like, I really set my clock to 24 hours just so I could catch 2020. And this is 2020. But it's fine with me. It's a lot of stuff. Anyway, going back to the algae and stables, but that it reminds me of that, like if we shovel an inch, spirit will shovel a foot. Right? Spirit will shovel 2 feet or even 3 feet. What's most important is that we're out there trying to shovel something. You're okay. Had a fever last few days and you're scared. Oh. Well, I hope that it isn't what you may be afraid that it is. And I think that's one of the interesting, well, just in general, because, people were saying we're going to be coming into flu season. But also, for me, when the weather shifts, my body can take a minute to get adjusted to it. And like when it shifts to from warmer to colder, then that also comes with certain symptoms for some people. But we're in a time where, like, better safe than sorry. So yeah, I'm hoping that it's not what you fear that it may be. And I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, with this Six of Pentacles, it's like that give and take where you find the balance, that's something to hold on to. And whatever doesn't have that balance, Pluto and Scorpio season, it's going to come to try to wash it out. This is Taurian energy. This is Taurus. Full moon in Taurus at the end of the month. You're sure you'll be fine. Okay, glad to hear it. Yeah, that's full moon Taurus energy. Ooh, at the end of the month. What else is happening? The full moon in Taurus is going to be exactly conjuncting Uranus in Taurus. I think it's going to be like 2 minutes away from Uranus in Taurus. And so that's also going to be an exact Sun opposed Uranus in Taurus. Also, since I make everything about me, that's my ascending degree. my rising is 8 degrees Taurus. And it's like about half of a degree away from my ascendant, where the moon and Uranus are going to be conjuncting in this full moon at the end of the month. And it's interesting because, so with the Pisces full moon, the moon conjuncted my sun exactly 10 degrees Pisces. With the Taurus full moon, the moon is conjuncting my ascendant exactly 8 degrees Taurus. And both the sun and the rising are these energies associated with how we sort of project ourselves out into the world. So I'm like, oof. Now, the Pisces full moon for me wasn't that bad.Maybe it hit me like a little bit after, maybe not. But I'm just like, ooh, goodness. Why is this moon so keen on hopping on top of my placements? And like, so I had a sun-sun opposition for the Pisces full moon. The sun was 10 degrees Virgo. My sun is 10 degrees Pisces. Mercury was 24 degrees Virgo. My Mercury is 24 degrees Pisces. So I had a sun-sun opposition and a Mercury-Mercury opposition. And the full moon was on top of my sun. I'm like, oh goodness. Oh goodness. I didn't have anything with Aries for the Aries full moon, thankfully, because the only thing I got in Aries is Venus, and that one was like a good 8 degrees away from my Venus, so I ain't gonna claim that one. And my Venus was already trying to do whatever when Mercury entered its pre-shadow. And I'm like, girl, I know you in Aries. I know you in the 12th house, but I'm going to need for you to calm down, please, miss. Because I'm not trying to be out here wrapped up in situations that I don't want to be wrapped up in. Like, I've done this once and I don't want to do it again. Thank you. So if you could kindly just take a seat, I would appreciate that. Anyway, back to this. And I know that Mr. Around had said something in his Pickamanere lately about some things that are going to be completed between basically in the month of October. Because we're starting with the full moon and we're ending with the full moon. That's a complete cycle in 1 month. In the month of October. Cycle closing on the day where the veil is the thinnest, on Halloween. And it's a blue moon in Taurus. Also, in my own personal astrology, while I'm getting that Uranus moon conjunction, Jupiter is also going to be conjuncting my Uranus and Neptune 20 degrees Capricorn. So it's going to be an interesting time for me. Hopefully, Jupiter's going to be bringing me some stuff that I won't, because, like, you know, I feel like I've been a good boy, Santa. Like, come on. Or at least I've tried. I've tried. I can say wholeheartedly that I have tried. Did I give up a little easy in certain situations? Yeah, sure. You know, we're all human. No one's perfect. But I try to go back and, you know, if it's pointed out, I have to take it. If it's accurate, it's accurate, and I can't be upset. Anyway, so that's the side of the King of Wands. So the King of Wands is coming from this space where we're finding balance amidst the chaos. We're healing, we're growing, evolving, and changing. We are manifesting, stabilizing, and sticking to the things that are reflective of that healing and growth and that continue to heal and grow us. And with the Six of Pentacles, those will be the things that we give to because they have the capability to give back to us. And anything that is not stable, anything that does not stick to the scales of Libra, Scorpio will come and wash away. And it may be painful, it may come out of nowhere, right? Because the Tower card is ruled by Mars. Mars rules Scorpio. So, you know, Scorpio has a tie to Tower energy. Mars has a tie to Tower energy. Mercury is going to retrograde in Scorpio. Mars is retrograding in Aries. So, Mercury and Mars. Mercury, the planet of communication. In that Scorpio, in that Tower zone with Mars, the planet of drive and action. Oh goodness. Hopefully things don't get physical. Physical. And I know I laugh, but that's very serious. That's not something to laugh about. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I remember Mr. Around saying, like, for the folks who ain't done shadow work or who ain't never did shadow work or who wasn't doing their shadow work, things between now and December are going to be really intense. And it's been something that I haven't really stopped doing fully. Well, there was a period of shadow work, and then there was this period of light work, and now there's this period of like light and shadow work because I'm trying to, I don't know, I'm growing and evolving into a person that I've never been before, and it's interesting. I'm doing my best. I feel like I'm losing certain parts of myself, but if I take an honest look at it, some of the parts of myself are those parts that are willing to give excuse after excuse after excuse, the parts of me that stay silent so that I don't rock the boat or whatever, and some of that stuff, it needs to go, honestly. So, but again, it's been such an interesting temperance for real. Temperance for real. I've been trying, at least. At the very least, I've been trying. So let's get into this Wheel of Fortune side because I've talked this side a lot. But all of this is going to leave us in this King of Wands position. In the King of Wands position, especially with Temperance and the Six of Pentacles and the Four of Swords, is about us finding the source of our power. Excuse me, the heart of the flame, and projecting that, feeding that, protecting that with that hermit energy. The glass of the lantern contains the glass of the lantern contains the gas within that keeps the fire burning. And this is about, again, holding that space, keeping the projection stable until we can enter in that sort of portal. Oh gosh, there's this like cough. Oh, that's like bubbling up at the back of my throat. It feels very like tickly. I don't know. Wheel of Fortune. We're gonna start with the Ten of Cups. I mean, who doesn't love to see a good Ten of Cups with the Wheel of Fortune when we just saw the Ten of Pentacles with the Four of Wands and the King of Swords with that title card? You don't know where you're going, but this Wheel of Fortune is telling me it's gonna be good. It reminds me of Hercules. When is it the Fates? I think it's the Fates. When the Fates came down to visit Hades for him to get the rundown on everything before he came up with his plan. And one of them is like, indoor plumbing. It's going to be big. But the time between her seeing indoor plumbing and when we actually got indoor plumbing, that was so long. Now, to an immortal, maybe that time is like nothing at all. But that was such a long time between ancient Greece and indoor plumbing. Like, girl. And maybe something about this feels so far off. And maybe we get discouraged. And that's when devil energy can come in and introduce doubt and worry and things like that, can get us to pursue other things, distract ourselves, Seven of Cups, other options that aren't the, the one that we're sort of temperancing our way to, hermiting our way to, preparing ourselves to be able to show up in this space for. Because it feels like something that's so far out and so far away. But the thing with the Wheel of Fortune is like it could literally be here tomorrow. It could literally be here right now. Somebody knocks or rings the doorbell, knocks on the door. It's like, congratulations, you've won. Open your email. There's that opportunity you've been waiting for. Anything. This is Mars in Pisces. Mars is retrograde right now. So it kind of sort of is about holding the line. It's a very Nine of Wands energy. And it's either a wounded warrior or somebody who has the stamina to go all night, and it's all dependent on our perspective. Then we have the Two of Wands. I love this. I've been seeing these two cards together quite often lately. The Ten of Cups and the Two of Wands. Mars in Pisces, Ten of Cups. Mars in Aries, Two of Wands. And that's what I was saying. I was like, I'm seeing a lot of people say that, like, Neptune is at 20 degrees Pisces and Mars is in Pisces. So don't do anything. Don't do anything right now because Mars is in Pisces and Mars in Pisces doesn't know what it's doing. Mars in Aries is so blind to whatever it went into Aries for. It doesn't even, like, Mars in Aries that's like the energy of the Five of Swords. It's like, Mars, like, the fight is over. What are you doing? Oh my gosh, Mars, you're going to kill it. Like, Mars, stop. Mars, stop. And, like, everybody's coming in to pull Mars off of whatever Mars is doing, but can't nobody pull Mars off of whatever. The only thing that can really get to Mars is Saturn. And thankfully, at least at the end of the retrograde, so if we didn't give Mars a vision when Mars was in Pisces, if we didn't find a dream worth fighting for and anchor ourselves in that when Mars went into Aries, like, that was an opportunity to continuously improve on what it is that we were wishing for, to reach it by the end of Mars's retrograde through Aries, so that when Mars enters Taurus, Mars is living the good life in that good Venusian energy. And it's like, well, if you didn't do it before, here's a retrograde. We're going to go back. We're going to erase some of this, give you the opportunity to rewrite it. Also, it's a time to, even if you did give Mars a vision when Mars was in Pisces, it's a time to get even clearer on that. And Like, and the reason why I say that Saturn is the only planet that Mars listens to is because Mars is exalted in Saturn. And so Mars was squaring Saturn exactly, like right before it went retrograde, and Saturn was retrograde. But it's like Saturn and Capricorn square Mars and Aries. Like Mars is in its home, squaring the planet that rules the sign where it's exalted. Right? This is like, in my mind, I'm just like, if I'm looking at the story of Mars from my little Patrick perspective, I'm like, Saturn is the only thing that Mars listens to, and Saturn is in the place where it's at its most powerful. So Mars is actually going to listen. And when Mars is retrograding, Mars is like, wait, did Saturn, like, now what did Saturn tell me to do? What did Saturn tell me to not do? Because again, Mars and Aries, it can get lost in whatever it's doing. Talk about Mars and Pisces lost. Mars and Aries is lost because this is doing everything and anything. Now that's that Knight of Wands to the extreme energy, low key, but maybe not. But again, we've had the guidance of Saturn and all of those other retrograde planets that the planets are direct now as it's retrograde and it's going to be squaring them in Capricorn, right? So even like Saturn in Capricorn was its first exposure, but now Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn, as they go direct and as Mars goes retrograde, it's like, okay, Mars, like you got this, buddy. Like, keep remember what Saturn said, because we hold pieces of the puzzle that Saturn can't give you. All Saturn can do is encourage you to keep moving until the wheel turns in your favor. And the last card is the Five of Swords. I was like, Mars and Aries is the Five of Swords. Well, there's the Five of Swords. But the Five of Swords in this deck is about the victim relinquishing their ties to victimhood and claiming victory for themselves. That's when the bully steps up to their bullies and they say, "You know what? I'm not going to let you bully me anymore." And then you find out how timid the bullies really are. They're shadows. Shadows recoil from the light. This is the timid, this is the meek, reclaiming their light, casting out the shadows in their own life and moving forward. And if you find yourself in a space full of shadow, then hey, it's a space that probably won't be able to hold your light. And we don't have to judge those spaces as whatever. We could, but we don't have to. It's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna take my light elsewhere. Because it's like it's too much for this space. Or it's just like, I could illuminate this space, but I'm gonna go and illuminate my own spaces, because right now we're in the position, like with this temperance, we're all supposed to be coming into our own lights. Maybe not. That's just the perspective that I have. We're all being given the opportunity, for gosh darn sure, to put the darkness and the shadows in the past and to, come into our own light. And some of those shadows, the parts of the shadow that is us, it's about bringing that into balance with the light, right? And so instead of darkness being something that surrounds the candle, it becomes the shadow of the candle itself. And there's a lot of shadow out there there's a lot of darkness beyond the space that the candle illuminates. There's a lot of darkness beyond the space that the star illuminates. But only the shadow of the candle belongs to the candle. The darkness surrounding it, that does not belong to the candle. That darkness, that shadow is not yours to hold or bear or try to temper. That's the shadow that you need to let go of. The only shadow that you need to hold on to and bring into balance is that of yourself. Right? And again, like also with this energy, it's like these shadows are not mine. Right? I will cast them out. 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 Brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, right? A poor player who struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard from no more. Right? Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. And all our yesterdays have but lighted fools the way to dusty death. Or whatever. I'm gonna do one more because I want to give the affirmators a chance to win. Come on, affirmators. Come on. You got this, buddies. The Pride Tarot is just mopping the floor. Now, the Pride Tarot was the space of the Venus retrograde. And the Venus retrograde was this deck was the only deck that I casted in the beginning of the retrograde season that I did not conclude with. Because I was like, oh, Venus has been direct for a while, so, that's whatever. Well, here comes the Pride Tarot claiming all these victories, all these W's for Venus. And the affirmators I didn't have at that time, so these aren't really tied to anything. This is just kind of sort of free floating energy, and we'll see if Venus takes it home. Oh, ooh, Venus loses. Oh no, this is a tie. We have our first tie between the Page of Wands and the Page of Cups. Oof. Pages of opposing elements. Is Venus gonna take it home? Is Venus gonna take it home? She's not. The affirmators are gonna take it, and this is the card. When I pulled this card, for some reason I thought it was the Fool, and that's why I was like, oh, Venus lost. Page of Wands against the Fool. The Fool came out in the affirmators. So it was a little premature, but I like I said, you hold the vision before it comes in. Page of Wands, Three of Wands, calling in that ship. Calling it in. And again, like I was saying about having it delivered to your new place before you move, it's like wherever this Page of Wands plants that wand, that it's the marker for where it tells the ship where to go. Right? It's like, when you buy a ticket, you have to pick a destination. If you get something ordered, you have to put in an address. They have to know where to deliver it. So the affirmators are going to take it. The Page of Wands is about having a brand new vision. Maybe not necessarily having the tools to see it through. So it can get a little frustrated when it isn't working out perfectly. Like, this isn't how I envisioned it. This isn't how I envisioned it. Something is missing and I don't know what. What is missing? And then here's the Three of Wands to call in the thing that's missing. And then on this side is the Page of Cups. This is wanting to experience something brand new, but almost like being in that space where you already know everything, right? And it's like, yeah, like I've played the game where I use my imagination and the floor is lava and the chair is a mountain and, the floor is the ocean and the chair is my ship and the floor is the sky and the chair is my airplane, the floor is outer space and the chair is my spaceship, but like I'm actually ready to go and explore something different. It's also interesting that we start with the floor being lava and the chair being a mountain, whereas in every other case, the floor was the space and the chair was the vessel through which we navigate that space. And the fact that the mountain isn't a volcano means that we're assuming that the mountain will be safe from the lava. Because it's not erupting from that space, right? It's erupting from somewhere else. Seek high ground. When else do we seek high ground? Floods. I guess lava is a flood of magma, or a flood of lava. It's magma when it's under the ground, and it's lava when it's outside, right? Is that how it works? It's magma when you can't see it. It's lava when you can see it, basically. It's the same thing, but the fact that you can perceive it makes it different. And that goes back to, what is that, Schrodinger's cat? You don't know if the cat is dead or alive until you open the box and find out. The fact that we observe something makes it different in and of itself, right? Even if you put zoo animals in the most natural of the environment that you can, the fact that they're privy to the human gaze and in cages and enclosed means that something is different. Because we're taking out the unpredictability of the wild, where we have everything controlled, right? It's not like zoo animals are going to starve because they can't catch other zoo animals. In the wild, if the lion can't catch the gazelle, they die. In the zoo, you throw them some food, you feed them, right? Not saying that I want lions to die, but you know, it just is what it is. Ooh, the Scorpio in my chart just leapt out. Usually I try not to say things like that, but it just happened. And so here comes the Fool. When the Page of Cups, it finally gathers up the courage, gains the ability, the mobility to experience a brand new space. And it's interesting because both the Fool and the Three of Wands have this energy of entering something unknown. Now, with the Three of Wands, we have a vessel, right? We're waiting for a ship. We're waiting for something to carry us to this new space that we're not necessarily walking to on our own. And with the Fool, excuse me, it's about just leaping into the unknown, right? With the energy of the Fool, the universe is your ship. The world, spirit will catch you. Spirit will guide you. Spirit will take care of you. But at the Fool, we have the strength and the courage to leap into the unknown, right? Assuming that the water that lies beneath will break our fall. Assuming that there aren't any jagged rocks or any rocks at all after we leap. This is interesting. We'll start over here. Why not? So closest to this energy, we have the Seven of Wands. I'm actually going to pull the next card. The next card is the Three of Cups. Okay. We started with the Three of Cups with that Hierophant, didn't we? So the Seven of Wands and the Three of Cups, this is all about holding spaces until we find acceptance. The Three of Cups in this deck is all about celebrating differences, not needing to homogenize other people, not needing to force assimilation. It's about celebrating diversity and differences. And so the Seven of Wands is, this is a card of us celebrating ourselves even when others don't, until we find the community that does. Just because you can't see me, just because you don't recognize my worth, doesn't mean I'm worthless. Just because you don't appreciate me doesn't mean I'm not worth appreciating. Just because I haven't found love that was free of all of these stipulations doesn't mean that I'm not worthy of loving just as I am. And you best believe I'm going to stand in this spot of loving me. I'm going to stand in this spot of appreciating me. And I'm going to stand in this spot of valuing me until I find the community, the person, the people, the opportunities that do. Your opinion of me holds no weight on who I am, because I know who I am. Type of energy. So now this takes on a different energy. Not really. Because again, I said that like wherever the Page of Wands plants that wand. Did I say wand? I feel like I said a WL sound. Wherever the Page of Wands plants that wand is where the three will go. That's where the ship will arrive. And so there is this almost sort of nomadic energy of going to find that space where you are welcome, going to find that space where you are loved, going to find that space where you're valued and appreciated. But it's not you doing that because you need someone else to do it. It's you doing that because in this environment, you don't get the fulfillment that you need. So you'll just go and find the space that you do get it. And then we end with the Knight of Wands. There's that nomad. There's that mover. There's that person who's going to find their place. And I love the Knight of Wands in this deck, and I'm going to read it because, and I talked about the Knight of Wands earlier, didn't I? Oh, excuse me. When I talked about, was it when I was talking about Aries? Our Mars and Aries is that Knight of Wands. Mars and Aries is that Five of Swords, just like going after whatever it wants. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Okay, what was I doing? I was looking up the Knight of Wands. It's just, it is what it is. Have you ever met somebody who is so dead set on not losing that they will toss the whole board, they will flush the whole thing down the drain, even if they don't want it because they know that they're not going to get it, but they're going to make sure that no one else gets it. So they make it worse for everybody else. They make it harder for everybody else than it needs to be because they can't win, because they're losing. If I can't have it, no one can. Throw the whole thing in the garbage. It's like, okay. And then, of course, there's the people that enabled them their whole lives and the people that continue to not say anything to those individuals. And so they feel justified in everything that they do. They never mature because no one ever holds them accountable for maturing. Anyway, Knight of Wands by Anita Inverity. The Knight of Wands is an adventurer and explorer, following the rainbow to every corner of the world on her quest for equality and humanity for all. Her courage knows no bounds as she ventures out in delivering her message. This knight finds it easy to confront and persuade with her endless energy and enthusiasm. Coming from a place of pure heart and passion, she will defend against unjust behavior and give confidence to those without a voice. This knight may appear to call on you to ignite compassion, to actively stand up for your rights or those of others. The opportunity may be there to advocate, to arbitrate, and to truly make a difference. The smallest of actions may have global implications for yourself and wider humanity. Be confident that people are ready to take notice and listen intently to what you have to say when the message is one of passion, power, and positivity. And I love that. I love that, especially coming off of all that Mars stuff, right? And again, it reminds me of what I said earlier about, like, if you're if you're surrounded by a lot of negativity, negative Nancy's, people who can't really encourage or get behind you, or they only encourage you up until the point where you're still beneath them. That's not they. I don't want to say that they don't care, because I feel like they can genuinely care, but they just encounter this spot where they face their own shadow, right? And it's like, do they love you? Do they want to support you? Yeah, sure. But when you start to do better than they are, that's when their own ego comes out. And again, it isn't it's not necessarily the case that they don't truly support you. It's just that they've sort of reached their capacity to be able to support you. But if you're growing into a space that surpasses the capacity for other people to support you, then it sounds like you've outgrown those people to me. And it may be hard. And again, it may feel, I don't, like I said, part of me is like, oh, that's so judgmental to say. But it's the truth. And is it worth stagnating because you don't want to upset somebody else? Because when you do too good, then they get mad or they feel threatened. It's like, no, it's not worth it. Move on. The Page of Wands and the Knight of Wands. The Page of Wands and the Knight of Wands are looking in different directions, but the Knight of Wands is facing at least the same direction as the Three of Wands. This is a beacon. This is a portal. This is a gateway. This is how they find each other. Because they're facing each other. And they're both holding on to a wand. They both have a stake in the situation. And they're both fairly exposed. Now, there is a red ribbon on the wand of the Three of Wands. And the red ribbon reminds me of fate. It reminds me of Dahlia, what I was talking about earlier. that we're fated to suffer in certain situations, but we're not fated to remain in suffering. This red string also reminds me of the Three of Swords, because in the Three of Swords it's a red string that ties those swords together, and it gives us the visual of a heart that's been pierced. But again, with that red string, with that red thread, with that red ribbon, it's something that's fated to happen. It was something fated to happen, but we are also fated for so much more. That's not where our story ends, but it can be if we so will it to be. But they're looking at each other. They both have a stake to lay in the ground. They may not necessarily know how they're going to get to each other. You may not necessarily know how it is that you're going to get to wherever it is that you want to go. But as long as your rod is firmly planted in the ground and as long as your rod is unmoved, the way will appear before you. And again, it's super close and weird, but because you can see the wand, like it's obvious the wand that this individual is holding. And again, note the vulnerability with the lack of clothing. But this individual is also holding on to a wand. And they are also naked, if you can see that. And then up there, if I can get that in there, there's a little bit of a red string on the wand that she's holding. And it's almost like one is fixed, one is mutable. I say fixed and mutable. One is fixed in position, the other one is moving. Neither, well, she's fixed. The page is moving. But the page will eventually be fixed as well when they find the spot where they stake their claim, stake their ground, hold their ground, fight for it. Seven of Wands right here. Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands after the Ten of Wands is moving forward unburdened. Now, the Knight of Wands can be a very playery type energy if there's a reason why that knight does that, right? If the Knight of Wands is a player, the Knight of Wands may still be burdened by that Ten of Wands. They're just out there acting like they're not, trying to convince themselves that they're not. But this Knight of Wands is free. Free to roam about the cabin. So now let's see what's on the other side. I did not expect for these to go this deep today, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I really thought I was just gonna come over here and have some fun. I really did. I was like, oh, I'm gonna pull the Pride Tarot and have some fun. It's like, Patrick, I don't know what fun is anymore. Fun? What is fun? We can have fun when the world is back together and not in this state of major transition. We can have fun before that. We can have fun all the time. But, we also got to work sometimes. The card that's coming out over here is the Sun. So, not too mad to see that on the winning side. But again, the Sun comes after we take this leap. And I feel like we're beginning to know that. Because again, with the Page of Cups, it's like we've run through all of the fantasies that we can run through in this space. We've made this everything that we can make it to make it feel new and exciting and fun. But eventually, you got to go outside. Eventually, you've imagined everything that this space can be. And it's time to not only navigate out of that space and to encounter new spaces, but it's also time to find a space where you don't have to imagine that it's great, because it just is. You don't have to imagine that the Sun is there. You don't have to dream that the Sun is there. You don't have to cry yourself to sleep every night trying to pray for the Sun, manifesting the Sun, doing everything else for the Sun. You can just go to the land where the sun always shines. California. What's that song? I don't know. I know a place where the grass is always greener. That song actually popped into my mind the other day. I think I was in Walmart. Warm, wet, and wild. There must be something in the water. Sipping gin and juice, laying underneath the palm trees. Okay. Boys. Alright, I'll stop. Break their necks. Trying to creep a little sneak peek. And then there was the gummy bear, the red gummy bear that like gave us the finger in the music video. She was shook. I was shook. And then Snoop Dogg popped out. We were all shook. I'm sorry. See, there's the lightheartedness. We can, like I said, we can have a little bit of fun. This side was a little more serious. This side is really fun. Like we have the Sun, the Two of Cups, and the Seven of Cups. Now, I think I talked about the Seven of Cups energy. Maybe that was on the Legacy or the new channel. Maybe that was on the other channel. This is the Legacy channel. I call it the Legacy channel because this is the channel that I had before Google acquired YouTube. That's why I can't change the name on this channel, because I had this channel before Google got it. So there are actually like some features that don't really show up. Excuse me, for example, on mobile, on my subscription tab, like I don't see community posts as they pop up. And even on my community post tab, I see like 3 or 4 of the community posts from people that I follow. Now, when I go over to my new channel, since that's like Google based, like community posts pop up inline. When I go to the community post tab, everyone's posts pop up. I can even change the settings on that one, but on the Legacy channel, it's like, nah, this is old, this is outdated. You get what you get. And I was like, okay. And I wanted to change my name. That's pretty much the reason why I made a new channel, honestly. Or that's what inspired me. I was like, oh, I want to go in and change my name, and I couldn't. So I was like, well, I could start over. And I did. And that's why I was like, I don't know what this channel is going to be. Now I found something for this channel to be. But it's like the lines are kind of sort of crossing a little bit. But that's fine. So we have the Sun, the Two of Cups, and the Seven of Cups. This is very, 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 very gorgeous energy. Coming off of the Page of Cups and the Fool. The Page of Cups is all about painting their own beginning in this deck. He's got the cup with the paint. He's got the paintbrush. It's a little lobster that's giving me more Scorpio energy. Scorpio is just all the energy today, apparently. Here's the Seven of Cups, which is more Scorpio energy. The Two of Cups is Cancerian energy. And then, of course, we got that Leo energy back with the Sun. We started with the Leo energy, Six of Wands, right? This is very beautiful, but this energy requires sacrifice. And what we're sacrificing is these non-options, right? The narwhal is holding that one cup that it holds all that water. It holds all that water in one cup. And then we have these 6 cups that are skewered on its horn. Out of reach for good reason. It's like it requires a sacrifice of all of these other options to invest in the one that will actually give us the Sun energy. I think I'll just hit the thing again. That's fine. And then that's the energy of the Fool. It feels like we know that the Sun is there, right? Because we're calling to the Sun and the Sun is calling to us. Page of Wands, Three of Wands. But we have to walk in that direction with the Knight of Wands. We have to ride in that direction with the Knight of Wands. And with the Seven of Wands and the Three of Cups, we have to continue to validate ourselves and to seek those environments that validate us as we are and as we have the potential to be, rather than, and like if that requires us to find a new space, then that's what it requires us to do, because we can't force anyone to love, value, or appreciate us. And it's not for us to do that, because there are people and situations, opportunities out there already willing to do it. Just might not be where you are. Some travel necessary. Potentially. Knight of Wands. And I did say that, this Page of Wands was feeling a lot nomadic with the Page of Wands and this Three of Wands, and then out came the Adventurer. So the Affirmators is going to be taking one. Shout out to the Affirmators. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Right. So this will end interesting. At the bottom of the deck over here, on the side of Venus retrograde, we have Judgment. Judgment. Now it's even worse. We got Judgment at the bottom of the deck. Judgment, the King of Cups, and the Nine of Wands. And I talked about that Nine of Wands earlier with the High Priestess sitting behind the Nine of Wands. But I talked about this Nine of Wands earlier being the outlook and the perspective that we have while we are standing our ground, not waiting for our things to come in, but waiting for the opportunity to make things happen. Right now, for everyone, for certain things, may not necessarily be the opportunity, or that now may not necessarily be the time to act, but the time to act will soon be coming. Judgment, the King of Cups, and the Nine of Wands. There are some things that are worth fighting for. And when we fight for something worth fighting for, it's like Mulan, what do we want? A girl worth fighting for. It makes the fighting easier when you got something worth fighting for. Instead of fighting for, I don't want to say fighting for trash or fighting for things that don't want us, but that's a losing battle, right? Oh, ho, ho, ho. We got two majors and another king. The only king that we're not seeing in the affirmators is the King of Pentacles. And look what's at the bottom of the deck. Speaking of fights not worth fighting, the Nine of Wands under these three. So the bottom three cards over here, Justice. So that would have been a tie at the bottom. And then we have a minor, the Devil, and the King of Swords. I love that this Devil is in between Justice and the King of Swords. Because if that King of Swords is healed, he'll cut out the Devil just like Justice will. Justice is like, you've had your time, you've played your part, your reign is over. It's time to bring in the dancing lobsters. Bring in the dancing lobsters. And then where's that Page of Cups? So what I'm going to do over here is we're going to pull one final card from the cards that we've claimed on both sides. Now, the Pride Tarot side of things has a lot more to choose from. It could be a lot more options. Oh, that was quick. Oh my goodness. Hold up, wait. I'm gonna have to turn this off and get this reset up. I've really just knocked that thing clean off the table. I need to fix this. I need to get this fixed. Can y'all still hear me? Yeah, y'all can still hear me. Is this back? Okay, there we go. So the card that came out is Death. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised because, Death made an appearance in the Pride Tarot, then made an appearance in the Affirmators, then came out in the Pride Tarot. Literally, first major. A time of transformation. What is the Affirmator that wants to come out? The Three of Cups. It would have been so funny if Death came out again. It would have been so funny. Death clarifying death. Memories. So let's see. I don't know how this is going to work over here because I only got 4 cards. We'll hold them like this. Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 4.
A random number between 1 and 4 is 1.
1. The Two of Cups. Oh, it was 5. It was 5. Oh, wow. I'm shook. Oh, well. The Two of Cups and the Three of Cups. Interesting. Let's put this up here. Wow. Well, I feel like I should do the same again. Oh, I can't believe I did that. How was it 5? Oh, because there was a tie, so I had to clarify it again. I was like, it should only be 4. It only won one time. Hey Siri, pick a random number between 1 and 5.
A random number between 1 and 5 is 2.
2, which would have been the 1. If I stack those up. The Three of Wands. The Two of Cups and the Three of Wands. And the Three of Wands is looking at the Two of Cups. So on this side, we have Death and the Three of Pentacles. The Pentacles, why do I always mix up the suits? This side will take it again because we have a major and a minor, and then we got 2 minors on the other side. But Death and the Three of Cups, this is about a transformation of our community. Again, for what doesn't serve, let Scorpio come in and wash it out. Right? Just let it go. I mean, we honestly don't even have to let Scorpio do it because we're in the energy of Justice right now. Justice was the bottom of the deck. I'm going to put these back in order. Justice and Judgment, 2 very similar energies, honestly. one is just like, on a larger scale than the other. And then on the other side, we have the Two of Cups and the Three of Wands, which is very much what this energy was. Like the only thing that this card won was almost when it came to love. But we have to allow the spaces that we occupy and seek to change into where we're actually welcome. We can't force welcome in certain environments. And as long as we're moving forward, it's like if you're moving forward in partnership in any way, this could be a lover, it could be familial, platonic, or a job, right? If you want a job that you absolutely love, in an environment that you absolutely love, with coworkers that you absolutely love, making money that you love, with a boss that you love, and like the things that you have to do to sustain yourself, you also find enjoyment in. If you want that, you're going to have to keep that in mind as you're moving forward energetically, as you're manifesting it. Right? Because again, this is the energy of like you're having all of your new furniture shipped to your new place. And everything is there except for you. And when you're not there, it gets returned to sender. Because the things that we're asking for don't fit into the lives that we've lived. They're too big, they're too bright, they're too great. And so the people that we surround ourselves with and the types of people that we surround ourselves with might change, because the Three of Cups is a card of community. And we have to be okay with allowing that to change. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's like those who really love and support you will love and support you regardless. Right? And they're not necessarily going to make you feel bad for no longer like enabling them. And again, it's not that there isn't love there, it's just that like maybe they've reached their capacity. Maybe your job has reached its capacity to provide you forward mobility and movement. And maybe that's why you're not getting the promotions anymore. It's like you've gone as far as you can go in this space. If you want more, you're going to have to go somewhere else. If you don't want more, then you can stay here. And it's fine. It's your choice. Right? With justice and judgment, it's also almost this energy. 2012, and now we're in 2020, double judgment. I might look and see what's before and after judgment in this deck, or I'll just look and see what's the two cards after judgment, because judgment is at the bottom. And again, and it's the year of the rat right now, and we have a rat facing the sun in the judgment card on the Affirmators Tarot. So shout out to Casey again for the gift. I love this deck. Hey, look, there's the King of Pentacles. The King of Pentacles is in between the Seven of Swords and the Queen of Swords. There was a World card. Who am I looking for? Judgment. Where's Judgment? Hello? Is Judgment going to be at the top of the deck? I know Judgment is blue. It's like a light blue. Oh my gosh. There it is. Literally the second card in the deck. And guess who's before Judgment? So I'm only going to pull one card because there's not another card to pull. The Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands is the only card after Judgment. The way that we proceed and the way that we move forward, not only the way in which we do it, but also the things that we go after, that's what's changing right now. And it's like with judgment and justice, again, what you decide for in your own life is going to be what the universe brings you more of. If you shovel an inch, spirit, the universe, whatever system of love you subscribe to, will shovel a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. But if you don't do anything, they're not going to do anything, right? If you have a 401k where your employer matches what you pay into it, if you don't pay anything, they don't pay anything. You can't be mad like, why aren't they paying? They said that they would give me this in 401k, and they said that they would give me like 50,000. I don't know how much is, Well, I don't have a 401k. I've never paid into a 401k, but so this is just an example. But like they'll say that we'll match whatever you put into your 401k up to like $50,000 a year, or every 2 years, or every 3 years, or whatever is reasonable, right? And all you hear is we'll pay $50,000 a year, and then you get mad like, where's my $50,000? Like you said I would get it, and we said we would match what you put into it up to $50,000. You didn't put anything into it, so we didn't put anything into it. Selective hearing gets a lot of people in trouble. And then people want to be mad. They want to be mad. And it's like, that wasn't even fine print, girl. That was bold, because we've got enough of these situations. We put it in bold and we confirm with you. Not only do we tell you, we confirm with you to prevent this from happening again. But for whatever reason after the fact, all you remember is we pay $50K. While apparently you think you don't have to pay nothing. I don't know. That's just not how it works anymore. At least in my world, for me, that's not going to be how it works. So I can't say it's not going to work that way for anybody. But from my vantage point and perspective, you know, that part where spirit just does everything for everybody, it didn't really get us anywhere. Because, like, look at where we are now. So it's time for us to be a little bit more active and involved in the process. The Four of Swords and the title card are the bottoms of the deck here. So overall, it's about being at peace with this not knowing, which more or less is about learning to trust your intuition. Learning that the energy that you put out will come back to you. And as long as you're putting out good energy, following your heart, and doing everything that you know you need to be doing, you'll be fine. More or less, here's the Three of Cups again. And death. Oh, it's not death. Wait, death is on the other side. And the Fool. Three of Cups and the Fool, which is the exact same message of death and the Three of Cups. It's about finding those spaces where you're celebrated and where you can also celebrate other people as they are, and you don't force them to be anything that they're not. Now, if we're growing and evolving, right, when it comes to the Two of Cups, there is some like sort of compromise that needs to happen there. But that's like compromise when we are adjusting to the needs of other people. That's not compromise when we're dimming ourselves and we're not being who we authentically are because we want to fit into a space that's not for us. So maybe that's something that I also needed to hear myself say, right? Maybe I am trying to pursue a certain line of work, maybe that did it work for me at one point in time? Yeah. Is it something that I still want to do? Of course. But do I want to do the work because that's the line of work specifically that I want to do? No. Do I want to do the work because that's a line of work that I enjoy doing because ultimately it helps people in a very tangible physical way? Yes. But there are tangible physical ways that I can help people that are more aligned with who I am and who I am becoming. That isn't necessarily what I was doing before. Or what I was going after before. Plus, there are some other things that I want that may not necessarily give me, and I've already realized that those things are important. So it's like, oh, well, you know, for the money, I'll sacrifice those things. For the money, I'll take it a little bit slower. I'm just ready to make money. I have not been this unemployed since I was like 15. I have not been this unemployed for this long since I was like 15. I'm ready to make some money. And it ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm ready to make some moolah. But I also want a job that's impactful that won't require me to sacrifice my morals or ethics. So, you know. Ooh, there's that sun card. Alright. So I'm going to shuffle this up and then we'll get our final messages. It's been 2.5 almost hours. Oh, goodness. And then we'll end this. I think I'll title this. Oh, I can title this right now. If you don't put into it, no one else will. That's what I'll title this, because I feel like ultimately that's what a lot of this is about, you know? Holding the spaces, stabilizing the portals, creating those things for ourselves that we wish to see, because if we don't pay into the 401k, you best believe the company ain't. Or at least that's not how this contract was negotiated. If you don't put into it, then no one else will. Is no one word or 2 words? I think it's 2 words. It's not noonie. Okay. So final message from the Pride Terror, please. Ooh, somebody just came home and I'm getting hungry. I'm kind of wanting some food that I know I shouldn't eat today. And I already had Taco Bell last night. I saw an ad on YouTube. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I went in my brother's room. I was like, you want to go Taco Bell? Also, I'm trying to win an Xbox Series X. And, you know, on the large and the medium drinks, you can win an Xbox. I don't even really want an Xbox, but I want to win an Xbox. Like, there's literally one game I want an Xbox for. I'm much more into PlayStation and Nintendo. Bottom of the deck is the Eight of Pentacles. This is quite a few cards, but I'm going to take them as a final message anyway. How many cards is it? Oh, it's only 2. Okay, yeah. Death and the Ace of Cups. It was the Lovers, the Page of Cups, and the Ace of Cups. But the Hangman and the Ace of Cups came out as the final message in the SKT. And that was about how as we're growing and healing, basically the message over there, or one of the messages over there today, was that our capacity to experience emotion was basically limited to the Six of Cups. And that's why whenever it comes to our best case scenario, or for the thing that we wish for to happen, for that one person that's your person, more often than not, we find somebody in the past that we try to make fill that role, regardless of if that's who it's supposed to be or not. But again, with our limited emotional capacity, that's the best we can do for this Ten of Cups situation. But if the Six of Cups is your capacity, you'll never attain the Ten of Cups. It exceeds your capacity. And that's the thing about cups. Cups hold liquid, right? So, and some people are like, well, I'll just get smaller cups. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. You can get smaller cups. You can get 10 small cups that have the capacity to hold what 6 of your cups can hold. Either way, you're still at 6 cups, right? And if you have 10 cups full of liquid and you try to pour it into 6 cups, what happens? The extra 4 cups end up on the floor. You can't overfill the cups. You can't overfill the cups, but they're not going to hold any of that water. And so it was all about us going through this series of challenges, growing opportunities, growth opportunities to, I did not say, hey Siri. I said series of challenges to expand our emotional capacity. And at first, there is a little bit of a void, right? Because we're used to being satisfied, or 6 cups was the dream, but now we have 4 cups that are empty, and it's like, wow, like, what is this? This doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel great. But then you 7, 8, 9, 10. Eventually you get there. And what came out last was the Hangman and the Ace of Cups. And it was changing our perspective, allowing that. And again, the 4 of Cups is the hollow void. The 4 of Cups is us, like typically it's depicted as we have 3 cups in the back. We're wishing, praying for, meditating for that last cup. Spirit is offering it to us, but we're not taking it because it exceeds our capacity, right? Anyway, it feels like there's a void because all of a sudden our capacity has exceeded what the past could give us. And now we're coming into this space where it's like, oh, well, you know, I don't know. Maybe the past isn't the best of what I can get. And it's like, yeah, you know, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. You'll be able to tell by your growth and their growth. And if they grow with you and continue to grow with you into the person that you're healing into, then it's probably, yeah. If they've already maxed out and if they're not interested in doing it anymore, you can't force anybody to do any growth or healing. And the people who pretend like they are doing it to get somebody, eventually they reach the point where they can't pretend anymore. This is about the increase that lies beyond the transformation, beyond the healing, honestly, but you know. And again, the bottom of the deck is the Eight of Pentacles, so it ain't necessarily an immediate thing, but it's growth potential. You know, who has growth potential? Like we're on a. Oh, is this the 10 of Cups? Oh, the 10 of Cups just came out at the cut with that Queen of Swords. Ooh, behind the 10 of Cups is the Ace of Cups. Oh my gosh. With the 3 of Wands behind the Ace of Cups. And the Eight of Swords is behind this Three of Wands. But, like, look, the giraffe is looking at the Ace of Cups and the Ten of Cups. Let's go. We just talked about that Three of Wands. No, that's the Three of Wands, not the Three of Cups, sorry. The Three of Wands is looking at the Ace of Cups and the Ten of Cups. And we just talked about that Three of Wands and the Page of Wands sort of establishing these beacons that called themselves to each other, but it looked like one of them was a little bit more stationary than the other. Maybe one of them, and it has been feeling like, divine feminine energy, not earth feminine, not whatever feminine. I don't have to go all that way. Divine feminine energy has been on this path of healing themselves and liberating themselves and saving themselves from the tower, so that when the divine masculine energy finally shows up, the divine feminine is not where you thought she would be, because she's already escaped the tower. But surprise, surprise, now the divine masculine has to escape the tower. And that involves a lot of death. It involves a lot of transformation. It involves a lot of transformation. It involves a lot of unlearning what the Hierophant put into you. Basically that hangman energy, where it's like, oh my gosh, the hangman wasn't crazy. It's just that, the Hierophant had the advantage of history and vast amounts of time to shift and sway society the way that benefits the Hierophant. And it takes that change in perspective. It takes that suspension of what the Hierophant told you for you to begin to see how things aren't quite actually what they claim to be. I wasn't going to take these, but I'll take them because the Eight of Swords was behind that Three of Wands. And so it seems like here we go. Well, speak of the Hierophant, and he will appear. Never mind the devil. Here's the Hierophant. The devil and the Hierophant are pretty much the same energy, just opposite sides of the same coin, more or less. The devil is the Hierophant that we're bound to that we don't like. The Hierophant is the Hierophant that we're bound to that we're convinced that we should like. More or less. Now that's old, like more Age of Pisces Hierophant energy. Not necessarily the energy of the Hierophant in and of itself. And what's behind the Hierophant? Well, there's the Three of Wands again. But this Three of Wands is outside. The Nine of Swords, the Five of Cups, and the Hierophant. Again, going back to how Hierophant energy, because it was in this video, I said it's like Hierophant energy can be anything that governs people. Anything that people turn to guidance, right? Which is, it's the media, it's the news, it's the film industry, the beauty industry, governments, structured, organized religion, unstructured, unorganized religion, whenever you give somebody outside of you the power to govern you in your life, right? Somebody could try to make me their Hierophant, and I'm not interested in being anybody's Hierophant. I will let all of y'all know up front. Like I said earlier, if you go and find you a community of people who will support you, but if I'm not somebody who supports you just because you watch me on the internet, sorry, I'm not for you. I'm not sorry. But there are people who should know you. And if there is no one that knows you, then again, stay in that energy until you attract to you the people who do know you. Right? I gotta establish some healthy boundaries, because it's like, bruh. But if I love and support you, then I love and support you. If I'm just some dude you watch on the internet sometimes, I'm not interested in being I'm not interested in being anybody's Hierophant. Like, we should all more or less be our own Hierophants. And it's not that there aren't things outside of us that aren't helpful, but at the end of the day, it should all be supporting, connecting us to, guiding us to ourselves and our own connection, right? So the cards at the bottom of the deck, the Eight of Swords, are the cards that came out. The Eight of Swords, the Two of Pentacles, and the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords is a Pegasus in this deck. Last time we saw the Knight of Swords, he was careening off of that cliff. This time, I'm not so sure, because the Two of Pentacles is there. Eight of Swords is a card of mental entrapment. Knight of Swords is a card of moving forward with a certain idea or truth. Now, with the Knight of Swords, it's not necessarily the king or queen, right? That truth isn't necessarily solid. it could be true from a certain perspective, and for the Knight of Swords, a lot of times that's enough, right? Who is this? Oh, hold up. I think I know who this is. I'm gonna have to answer this.